Okay, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at the message of Kohelet, or the book of Ecclesiastes. Okay, looking here back at Crenshaw. According to the thematic statement in 1:2 and 12:8 that all is vanity, he sought to demonstrate that the claim that life lacked profit and therefore was totally absurd or futile. In support of this thesis, Kohelet argued, and he's going to name off 4 things here. 1, that wisdom could not achieve its goal. 2, that a remote God ruled over a crooked world. 3, death did not take virtue or vice into consideration. And 4, he advocated enjoyment as the wisest course of action during youth before the cares of advancing years made that response impossible. Now, supposing that Solomon wrote this in his aging years, and when you look at Crenshaw here, this old geezer, okay, I think the advice of Solomon is very good, that enjoy your youth, take advantage of it, have a little bit of fun, because maybe things aren't going to work the same way when you get a little older. Okay. He's going on here. This is how he's making a summation point here on Ecclesiastes. Kohelet taught by means of various literary types that earlier optimistic claims about wisdom's power to secure one's existence have no validity. So the other side of the coin, what he's trying to say is that, Proverbs, when Solomon wrote many Proverbs that were put into the book of Proverbs, that it basically said, if you work hard, then life will treat you good. And if you're lazy things are going to happen to you, that you will have no food in harvest. Okay? Those things are true. There's nothing wrong with those. But the other side of the coin, when you read the book of Ecclesiastes, is that, hey, one thing overtakes everybody, whether you're a fool or whether you're wise, and that's death. And so Solomon saw this as a part of the vanity of life. No discernible principle of order governs the universe, rewarding virtue and punishing evil. The Creator, distant and uninvolved, acts as judge only, if at all, in extreme cases of flagrant affront. For example, the reneging on religious vows. Death cancels all imagined gains, rendering life under the sun futile or absurd. Therefore, the best policy is to enjoy one's wife together with good food and drink during youth, for old age and death will soon put an end to this relative good. In short, Kohelet examined all of life and discovered no absolute good that would survive death's effects, or the effect of death. He then proceeded to report this discovery and to counsel young people on the best option in the light of stark reality. It follows that Kohelet bears witness to an intellectual crisis in ancient Israel, at least in the circles among whom he taught. There's a lot of truth here to what Crenshaw is saying. That death does cancel all imagined gains. That's why what advantage does man have for all the toil that he does under the sun? Because death comes and robs it. Now, looking here at Fox, he has a lot of things to tell us about the teaching of this particular book. The problem. The underlying issue that Ecclesiastes addresses is the possibility of meaningfulness in life. For events to be meaningful, they would have to cohere in a comprehensive picture. A life with a strict correspondence between deed and consequence, virtue and reward, vice and punishment would make sense. Kohelet is frustrated that life does not make sense in this way. Frustrated by such incoherence and irrationality, Kohelet calls the world hevel, That means senselessness or absurdity or futility or as a mere breath. 2 affirmations. Kohelet is not a nihilist. Everything is absurd is to be understood as expressing a general characterization of life, not as an absolute proposition negating all possible activities and values. Kohelet does find some things worthwhile: moderate work, temperate enjoyment of the pleasures that come to hand, love and friendship, gaining and using whatever wisdom is within our capacity, being reasonably righteous, fearing God, and hoping for divine justice. These are very good things. But even though Kohelet knows all of these things, he knows that there's never perfect justice in this life. Never going to get it. That's why there's a great white throne judgment to come. So Kohelet and the book of Job have a lot in common in terms of looking at wisdom. Very, very different from the book of Proverbs. Very, very different. Going on, this is not an encouraging theology, nor is it meant to be. For Kohelet seeks to open eyes to the world as he sees it, and the world is a grim one. In most of the Bible, God has relations, whether loving or hostile, to nations and individuals, and God, though not fully predictable, most always acts in accordance with transparent principles of justice. But the entirety of biblical thought does not reside in every book. Ecclesiastes must be read as one voice, adding a unique perspective to that diverse collection of ideas that constitute the Bible, that is, our canon. Doubt and belief. Kohelet never sets forth a conventional idea as an erroneous dogma that he proposes to defeat or modify. He never distances himself from the principles he finds contradicted. Kohelet holds to conflicting ideas and is troubled. Kohelet places himself among the wise and shows no awareness that his observations clash with the beliefs of other sages. He does not attack the principle of retributive justice. He believes in divine justice, but sees it contradicted and throws up his hands in frustrations and calls what he sees hevel. Or hevel. Yeah, this is true. He sees in one place a righteous man suffering as a fool, and in another place a fool being blessed as a righteous person. And then he said, this is vain and chasing after the wind. It's futile. So there's things that happen to us as people here on this earth that are not just. And that's what he's recognizing. And you got to believe this. This is true. If you don't, you are just you're blindly closing your eyes to reality, and you're not going to get too many followers. Coming back here to Siao, in sum, Kohelet always begins his reflection with humanity and the human condition. He concludes every turn that mortals are not in control of things that happen in the world. They are not in control of their destiny. This is why Kohelet says everything is hevel, vanity. He does not mean that everything is meaningless or insignificant, but that everything is beyond human apprehension and comprehension. But in thinking about humanity, Kohelet also speaks of God. People are caught in the situation where everything is hevel in every sense of the word. God is transcendent and wholly other, but humanity is on earth. Yet God's related to humanity, and God has given humanity the possibilities of each moment. Hence, people must accept what happens, whether good or bad. They must respond spontaneously to life, even in the midst of uncertainties, and accept both the possibilities and limitations of their humanity. Let's go here to Fox. The epilogue, another voice. The epilogue looks back and evaluates Kohelet from the standpoint of the editor. From a more conventional conservative standpoint, assuring the reader that he was a wise and eloquent teacher, but also warning that words of the wise hold certain dangers. What is most important, fearing God, obeying his commandments, and living in awareness of God's ultimate judgment. That's how the book ends. Now, as Christians, we should leave the book of Kohelet knowing that God can turn all things out for the good. So even when we go through bad things, just know that there is life in the Son, the S-O-N. Even though we live under the S-U-N, the Son, in this life, we experience bad things, God's still able to make things good after a while. And that's the big qualification, after a while. You won't see that necessarily all the time. You're going to live through a lot of frustration. But in the end, God knows how to work it all out for good. Best place to begin is by looking in there. God's working on us, working on patience, working on how we are to respond to life, to its many trials that it sends our way. So I want you to really prayerfully read Ecclesiastes a little different than what you have before. And I think you're going to find that this book will quench your thirst, knowing that why everything, we're not in heaven yet, okay? We still live on earth. We're not in heaven. So that this book will answer the question. It will remind you that you're still on earth. Very good.